Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with everybody and have such a good group out. I really appreciate that. You know, sometimes you hear libraries and that doesn't really drive people out to the presentation, but this is an Institute of Higher Learning, so I see that everybody is interested in improving ourselves, so I really appreciate that. Koios is a company that was started about 18 months ago. The idea is to make it as easy to borrow as to buy. And so most people have this kind of conception of the library, right? If you say the word library, something like roughly this is going to pop up in people's heads, maybe with a sign over here that says fines, right? That's pretty much the conception of the library. However, libraries, public and academic these days, are doing a lot of important things, right? They're doing career training, public libraries are doing literacy, and they're using all kinds of technology for people. So ebooks, audiobooks, movies, right? They've really expanded into all these different areas. But the problem is, why is it that people don't think of this when it comes to the library? Why is it that in people's heads they still have that old lady behind the counter with the fines? Well, we've interviewed hundreds of people about their library perceptions, and what we tend to hear falls into one of two camps. Either you don't know what's available, or you do, but it takes too long to access it, right? There's Amazon, there's one click, we can get it there. So what this really comes down to is marketing and user experience. So two different problems for the library. I thought it'd be helpful just to show you guys, to really envision the problem with the user experience in particular. So this is a digital catalog. It is exactly the equivalent of this. It's structurally the same. And the problem with that is that it's not really made for the web. So you'll never get results from your local library on Google. You'll never see them in Amazon, even though you could potentially see your local used bookstore, for instance, in the Amazon marketplace. And you'll never see it on Wikipedia. It's just not connected to your search for content. So what we're doing is trying to make it as easy to borrow as to buy by connecting the library back to that search. And the way that we do that is with a browser add-on. So I'm going to pull out of here and show you guys the browser add-on in action. So say you're on Amazon and you're looking for a book. That's all right. It could be any book, it doesn't matter. Koios will be plugged in the background and running. So what happens is, if I just happen to pick The Girl on the Train, then maybe not. This is part of a longer demo. Hold on. There we go. Okay. So what you'll see. Usually I demo it off my computer, but we had some technical difficulties. All right. So let's try this again. Oh, I know what it is. I opened a few books. All right. So I clicked on the Wright brothers, and when it cuts over, this is Koios. So you'll see this bar pop up automatically whenever what you're looking at is available at your library. So this is Richland Library. It's the public library in South Carolina. There could be any library, right? It could be the Cumberland County Library. It could be the FTCC library for students, and this could be on all the computers. And so it'll say, you know, here it is, it's either checked out or it's available, and you can click right through on that button to place your hold. All right, so before Koios, what was going on, or if you try to go to your library today versus Amazon. On Amazon, you know you're going to have 4 steps. You're going to search for it, you're going to click on the one you were looking for, you're going to add it to your cart, and you're going to check out, right? At the library, you're not even really sure that the item is there. necessarily. And so what ends up happening is you search, and then you filter through, and you filter through, and this might happen indefinitely because you're not sure if it's there. So the idea with Koios is to entirely eliminate that search, because if you're not a librarian, a catalog can be a pretty tough thing to work through. And librarians do a great job if you go and you talk to them, but these days, with people blasting all over Google and Amazon and everything else, if we want to get the library into their minds, we're going to want to do something like this, right? So all that happens is, it's the same path, but instead of checking out Amazon, you check out the library. That's it. Now the good news is, Koios doesn't just have to work at Amazon. We're working on integrations with Wikipedia, with Google, with Imdb and Netflix. The Netflix one is generally people's favorite, so if you search for a movie, for instance, it's only on DVD, or it's only available, or it's not available at all through Netflix, then it'll cross-reference the library. So then it'll check the library and it'll say, oh, nope, it's at the library, you can go watch it there. So for the public library market, we see libraries willing to pay between $5,000 and $25,000 a year for this, depending on what they get on the back end. So we also do some collection development stuff. So say somebody searches for things that aren't at the library, right? We can aggregate that information and we can say, hey, 80 students at FTCC have looked for this particular book. Maybe you should think about getting a copy. That kind of thing. And then right now, this is a $50 million market and growing quickly. So for us as a business, that means that we break even at 10 libraries, just me and a co-founder. We're running a pretty small shop. And we have a serviceable available market of 13,000. So that's 9,000 public libraries in the country and 4,000 academics. So I can tell you a little about the team in questions if you would like. But what you can do for us is, number one, sign up with your email and zip code. That's how we know that people are interested in Koios in a certain area. So if we were to come here, if we were to come and talk to somebody at the library here, if we were to come and talk to somebody at the library, the Cumberland County Library, this is what we would say. We would say we have 10 people signed up on this list in the area. They already know about us. They're interested. And that would be the beginning of that conversation. You can also, driving the first point, share with friends. So this is our Twitter and Facebook information. We'd love for you guys to like us, follow us, ping some of your friends with our information and say, hey, check this out. That'd be great. And then number 3 would be mention it to a librarian. So if you really like this, if you like what you're hearing, then the best thing you can do for us is to tell a librarian about us, because that's what they listen to in order to make decisions about what they're going to bring to the library as well. So that's all for me. I'd be glad to answer questions. Yes, sir.
You call a library there. How do you program the libraries for the search?
Yeah, so we can do it one of 2 ways. The way that we have it at Richland is that it's scraping the discovery layer. So libraries, there are only a handful of providers of catalog software. And so as long as we play nice with the web version of that catalog software, then all we have to do is pull that data. A better way for accuracy and speed is to do an API connection. So where we're actually hooked up to the database instead of scraping on our own. But we can do it either way.
I was questioning how I get it on there, but I sign up with my email and zip code, and so it's going to tag into my library, if my library is available.
Yeah, if your library is available right now, we'll let you know. So we see the zip code and we say, oh, it's already there. It is not available in this area right now. Fayetteville is part of what I call my 1 Million Cups tour. So I'm based in Columbia, and I'm doing 1 million cups everywhere in about a 3-hour radius. And just to get the word out there about us and to try to pick up some speed in the region. So I mentioned to Tamara before, this is a particularly easy and nostalgic stop for me because my parents still live in Hope Mills, so they were thrilled that I got to come visit them as well. But yeah, so signing up is, to answer your question, it's the best information we can provide to get it in the area. the best thing we can say to a librarian is, here's somebody who found it, they want it, and they're right down the street. And then if it does come, all we do is we filter by zip code and just send one email, one download link email to everybody in the area. Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Given that the majority of people are doing things on their tablets and on their cell phone, do you have an app in development?
That is a great question. Right now, our solution on mobile is to wait. Apps work a little differently than browser extensions. An app wants your attention all the time, right? An app is putting notifications, it's trying to get you to come back. We don't really want that experience. We want the opposite, where our browser extension is sitting there, and if you need it, we'll jump in, otherwise it's totally quiet. So browser add-ons really are the best way for us to do what we're doing. Mobile browser add-ons, it looks like, are coming. And so before I put a whole bunch of my scarce startup money into putting an app together, I'd like to wait and see whether mobile add-ons pick up. They're already out for Firefox, and so it looks like Chrome will go that way, and Safari is always the laggard. Sorry to you iPhone people, but it'll get there eventually. So right now we're waiting, but it's a big part of our strategy. Yes.
I love this idea. I was just curious what brought you to think of this, because we forgot about libraries, right?
Yeah. So I worked in a library when I was in college, the campus library at the University of South Carolina, and I was actually in the rare books section, which architecturally just looks forbidden. It's across this glass bridge through glass doors at the very back of the library. Everything about it says don't come in here, right? And so that just ate at me, because the librarians there were very interested in people coming in and using the services. It was public access. Anybody could walk in and say, show me a first edition of The Great Gatsby, and they would say, okay, give me a minute, and walk and just produce it, So we had world-class researchers coming in from all over the world, but we couldn't get a few students to come in from down the street. And so that's what really started me thinking about library marketing and library user experience. How do we get this? It's all free, right? You can have amazing experiences with history or with the information, public, modern information you care about today. So how do we get people to actually know that, right? Know that they can have that kind of experience. So that's how it started. Yes?
Does the library system network all the libraries together? Do they have one main?
Do you mean a particular library system? Like say, Cumberland County and all its branches? Is that what you mean? Or do you mean, you said?
University of North Carolina, which has about 7 colleges all put together.
Yeah, so I know, I'm not as familiar with UNC. I know that at USC, all of the branches are connected. But I know that UNC has like affiliated colleges and universities that are, it's not like UNC something. It's like not UNC Greensboro.
North Carolina has NC Live that connects all the libraries across the state.
There we go.
All those libraries with one library.
There we go. So we can actually plug in at that level. That's what's called the consortium level. And so, especially in an academic context, if we were to connect to one library, we would add that information in. So maybe you couldn't get it from a physical copy here from the library on campus, but you can get it through that consortium, right? You can get it from UNC Greensboro or UNC
Board is into the local library.
Yeah, it's the same. It's a cataloging system. It works just the same. We would just stack them together.
So the reason I asked was because if you, to me, your business model is a kind of a local business geotagging entity. I mean, if all the libraries were networked together, what's to stop them from doing the same thing you're doing and just marketing themselves like that?
Yeah.
But in since they're fractured like that, you stand a much better chance of success, don't you?
There is, I mean, I would love to see libraries band together and do something like that nationally. But, well, part of the challenge is the libraries themselves are local, so they don't answer to a national entity, they answer to county council, or they answer to the municipal government. And so to collaborate across even county lines is not generally on their radar. It's not to say it can't be done. And there are a couple of tools, WorldCat is one, for instance, that's set out to become the world catalog. And I think it's become very helpful to librarians because they can, if they get something new, they can look and make sure that it's somewhere else and just sort of copy paste that information, right? You don't have to catalog from scratch as much. But it hasn't really picked up with the public. And I think part of that is the combination of marketing and user experience. A lot of libraries are bound by what their catalog vendor says. So if the catalog vendor isn't going to do the R&D to do something like this, it's not going to happen. And because the top 4 cataloging vendors make up definitely over 60%, but possibly 70 or 80 of market share for cataloging systems. It's just unlikely to happen. They have a nice little block there. So
You get the libraries to market you?
we have a like a marketing packet that every library gets, and it has bookmarks and flyers and tweets that you should send out and email blasts, sample email blasts and all of that, so that once a library signs on with us, they can get the word out very quickly to everyone that's already in the system. But we do some of our own marketing as well, especially when we're coming into a new area. We look for reading groups that aren't affiliated with the library, coffee shops, podcasts, things like that. People who are sort of fringe, right? It's people who maybe they have a library card, maybe they don't, but they would potentially go to the library if they knew that it was going to be this easy. So we try to capture those people too.
Does it work only for books and CDs and that kind of thing, or do you include the resources that the library have too, like the, I don't know what you call it, book a librarian, where they'll teach you Excel, or they'll teach you Word, or they'll teach you PowerPoint, you just make an appointment with them for nothing?
Yeah, it depends on what the library wants. So at Richland, I didn't go through the whole walkthrough, but at Richland they were specifically interested in allowing users to search the catalog from anywhere, allowing them to ask a question of a librarian from anywhere, and allowing them to request a new purchase from the library directly. And so we have, and I wish my computer's not up, I'd show you, but there's a little button that stays in the toolbar when it's installed, so you know it's there. But you can click that and access all these different options. And so if a library is interested in saying, I want my book a librarian option to be there, it's there. If they want their events calendar to be there, it's there. Then you just click open and go there. Long term, I want to see more integration with that, to where if, say, that you are watching a YouTube video that explains how to do integrals, then it could say, hey, did you know that your library actually does calculus help? Click here to book a librarian. So that is the future. I'm very interested in that. Right now, it's a little more user opt-in.
Right.
Other questions? Yes?
How long have you been in business, and can you kind of map out your marketing plan and if it has changed from when you started?
Yeah. So we've been in business since November of 2014. That was Startup Weekend in Columbia. Is there a Startup Weekend in Fayetteville? I'm not sure. Okay, so I'll give you a little bit about that. Startup Weekend is kind of like a hackathon. The idea is you build you build a business in a weekend. So it's like a hackathon, except it's not really about code. It's about, this could be a viable business. And so I had this idea for a little while. I was doing some consulting for the public library. And so I just got up there, I pitched it, a group came around, we put stuff together really fast. We ran over to the library, we talked to librarians, we talked to people there, we talked to people on the street over the course of a weekend, and we ended up winning that competition. And so that was really the genesis of the company. At that point, we were really envisioning, I'm trying to think about our marketing plan back then. It certainly changed. Really, back then, we figured that we would have to do a fair bit of grassroots work, getting people interested in different places. I think the big channel that has changed is trade shows. So trade shows, conferences,
Right.
doing thought leadership type things. So I'll speak at Computers and Libraries in DC next month, and that's a part of our marketing now, a big part, in fact. So we have a conference in March and a conference in October that we've done so far. We'll do them again, and that's where we hope to get a lot of our sign-ons. We've already, one of our beta partners we got from our last conference, so that seems to be working. Yes, sir.
Self-funded or capitalized by outside?
A little bit of both. After Startup Weekend, we joined an accelerator program. So that is outside funding. It's about probably half of our total budget so far came from the investment the accelerator program made. And then the other half came from pitch and business plan competitions. So I think Cindy knew that we won a big one at USC back this November, which was a pretty big deal for us, and we'll be competing in one at UGA in a couple of weeks here. We'll be competing in one in Savannah. So there are good opportunities. If you don't, I'm 25. I almost built this company straight out of college. I had about a year and a half before I started building this company. So if we were self-funded, we wouldn't get very far on that, let me tell you. And so the way that I do that is to go around and speak.
For the people who are involved in your team.
Right. So no one has written, no one on the team has written a check for $10,000 or something. It's a lot of sweat equity. We put in hours every week that we could spend doing other things and making money for ourselves and our fiancés and wives and all that. But really those two are our main channels of money. So if I'm going to pay somebody, it's either coming out of business plan winnings or that one investment.
What's your current client base?
So we're working with Richland in Columbia. We're working with Washoe County, which is Reno, Nevada. That's the group from the conference. And we are getting ready to start up with SC Lens, which is an 18 library consortium in South Carolina.
So you haven't reached your 10 libraries yet?
No, not 10 paying libraries, no. But we have enough libraries that we can start to collect the data that we can then take to the library sphere in trade shows and conferences and say, here's what we've seen so far, this is the user uptake, this is the activity that we're driving, this is what we think, the additional circulation we think we're getting over what somebody would usually use. So we're still, I would say we're still in the proof of concept phase. So right before we're doing betas, right? It's right before we really go to market with the price sheet and everything.
Why don't you and I talk after this and walk you into Carolina and have a more in-depth conversation?
Okay, I'd be happy to do that. Yes.
Have you heard anything out of Amazon?
Not yet.
Because you're a competitor.
Yeah, so clearly we are, what someone might call a redirected sale from Amazon. Two things we know about Amazon. One is that Amazon has been fairly friendly to companies like this in the past. In fact, sometimes very friendly. Like, hey, come be a part of Amazon friendly. And so that's what the software similar to ours is what drives the Amazon marketplace, for instance. So the reason you can see all the used and new things like that is because they bought a company that was doing something similar to ours, but for bookstores as opposed to what we do, which is libraries. So there's that data point. We also know that there are some comparison shopping browser extensions out there. So if you were to look up, oh gosh, let me think of a name. One's called the Invisible Hand, which is probably my favorite. I just like that idea of economics. But so Invisible Hand pops up like ours does, but instead of saying, hey, it's at your library, it says, hey, it's at Target for $1 cheaper, or it's at Walmart for $1 cheaper. And those have been around for years. Those have been around for 2 or 3 years now, and a couple dozen of them. And nobody, to my knowledge, we keep pretty close track of that news. Nobody said anything about them, so we feel pretty good that there's precedent there.
So is that the ultimate goal, to build it up and have Amazon buy you out for millions of dollars and get it?
It's a potential in game. It's not really what I buy, potential. But it's not really what I'm hoping for. I'd like to build this into a sustainable private business that does more and more for libraries. And so I have plenty of other ideas for technology to help libraries, receipt add-ons that have book recommendations or event recommendations on them, so you take that with you. I really want to take on the entire cataloging system. That would be my goal. I want to get enough money that I can play that game, right? That high stakes poker game where we build a whole new cataloging system that's totally built for the web and works with all the search engines and gives you recommendations if you want them right there built in, and it deals with fines and holds and acquisitions and everything without you having to buy from 10 different people. How much I could talk about library technology. I don't want to get us distracted on that topic, but it's asking to be overturned, basically. It's the kind of market you want to see as a startup, where there are a handful of entrenched players who just keep giving people stuff that doesn't work really for today's consumer. So yeah, we'll see if we can't disrupt it. Any other questions? Well, thank you guys so much. You've been a very lively audience. This has been great.
What can this community do for you?
Yes, so please do these things. Please like us, follow us, sign up if you'd like to see it here. And also, this is my first talk ever at a community college. So I would love to hear how things are similar and different here for for you guys, if you're students, or for your students, because I know that the academic market, when we talk to USC, for instance, they're concerned about journal articles and databases and those sorts of things. So I would love to hear what you guys see the need is for your community, because this is a new group for me. So thank you.